Hey, everybody. Welcome to Bloodlines and Bottom Lines, the show where we explore what really happens when family, business, and identity collide. I'm your co-host, Robert Moskowitz.
And I'm your co-host, Gershon Margolis.
Hey, Gershon. And each week we sit down with someone brave enough to talk honestly about the messy, complicated, beautiful, and sometimes painful realities of running a family business. These are the stories behind the legacy, the stories behind the trauma, the stories behind the bottom line.
On today's episode, we are excited to have Andrew Tjernlund. Andrew is the CEO, I think, but definitely one of the owners. We're going to hear more about that. Of a fourth or fifth, we'll hear more about that too, generation family business. Andrew and his cousins run the business, and we're really, really excited to have you here, Andrew.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Welcome, Andrew. Thanks for taking the time.
Of course.
All right. So why don't we start with, I know you've got multiple lines of business and you've got a lot going on there. This has been going on probably for at least 100 years if we're at the fifth generation. So can you just give us a little bit of background of the business, high level? What do you do? How do you make money? And then we can start digging into, or I guess you can tell us also, like, what happened over the last 100 years?
Sure. So we're actually at 88 years. Because it was a father-son combination that started it. So we got to the second generation sort of out of the gate or what have you. But Tjernlund Products is a multi-generational family business. We started in the HVAC industry. So we're manufacturing uh, all sorts of, heating and air conditioning and ventilation equipment. And then, so that starts with right before World War II with a father and son. Father goes off and fights in, or I'm sorry, son goes off and fights in World War II, comes back. They continue on with the business as they move forward. So that'd be my great grandfather Emil and my grandfather Robert. Robert has two sons, Robert and Thomas. Thomas is my father, but it's the first and fifth child. And so, interesting enough, and this actually plays really into what I think is kind of the ongoing success of our family business. Robert and Tom are 14 years apart. And so, when Robert the elder, my grandfather, dies when my father's like 14 and Robert's like 28. Robert comes into the business. Actually, his brother-in-law, Robert's brother-in-law, so my I guess great uncle, he's into the business as well. Fast forward, Thomas comes into the business a little bit later on when he's older, and also, Robert's sons, my co-owners, Bob and Dave, come into the business, and I come into it later on. But so right now, the current ownership is myself and two of my cousins. It's my 41st birthday today, actually. So I'm
That's
41.
right. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy
And then
birthday.
I have cousins, I think they're 51 and 57. And so what's really, really great is that we've always had sort of these half generations in the business. There's not a 30-year gap where you truly have completely different timelines, maybe technological views, maybe what have you. We've got, a much more gradual age gap, and so that seems to help. But talking more about the business and less about the family tree, so to speak. We It was HVAC for the longest time. Really, actually, the biggest part of the business is as a distributor to Amazon now. So I can get into how we got into that. But for the past 14 years, we've been one of Amazon's largest direct suppliers. So we don't just sell on Amazon; we sell to Amazon. We're a top 100 vendor central account with them, and through that, we've expanded into. We've needed bigger buildings, so we've gone into some 3PL activities. We have a offshoot with some EV charging. We do some licensing with other brands where we sell under their brand. And so there's all sorts of different angles where as we've tried to grow the business, we've just tried to be dynamic as the world changes and as opportunities present themselves or there's certain efficiencies. And so, right now we're sort of a Frankenstein's monster of all sorts of different smaller businesses. And we're just trying to, try multiple paths and see which one we have the most success with.
Where do you see that heading? Which do you think is going to be the most successful?
I am probably most excited about our newest one, and that's a gift and a curse of my own preferences. I mean, for sure, our biggest one, the Amazon side, that's what my main focus is. So that's one where we continue to try to offer more products directly to Amazon, and we've been able to ride that from being a place where you just buy books to being an absolute, juggernaut of all commerce in the world. So that's been great. Our latest thing is we are a licensee for the DeWalt brand. So we manufacture products and sell it under the DeWalt brand. And so we're really excited to see kind of where that takes us, if it can open doors for other areas, if we can do more products with them. We've really not done licensing, especially to this level of licensing to this level of prominence. And so we're building that right now. Literally, we'll be launching or have our first products available like this week. And so we've been building out that whole infrastructure. So that we're truly in the infant stage. We're 40 weeks pregnant right now, and so we're just waiting for that last little bit to really make the launch happen, and then we'll kind of see where that goes. But that's one area that's basically I could go into the background of how we evolved and all that stuff, but essentially, you know, as we see new opportunities, we try new things. If we can keep trying multiple things, some things haven't worked out very well. And, we try to limit our downside there. But, the only way we can find new ways to be dynamic and grow over multiple generations is try new things.
Hmm. Can you tell the audience, just in case they don't know, what does it mean to not sell on Amazon, but to sell to Amazon?
Sure. So,
If it's okay.
um, typically, most sellers on Amazon use Amazon as a marketplace, that's
Hmm.
where the customers are. And
Hmm.
so Amazon collects their what they call a referral fee, but they collect their fees for connecting buyers and sellers. And so it's a great place to go. You could always, and this is really popular, 5, 6 years ago, you could say, hey, you know what? I don't want to pay that rent to Amazon to drive customers. So I'm going to do with Google ads, Facebook ads, Instagram
Hmm.
ads. I'm going to drive them directly to my e-commerce site, right? We were never so bold as to try to really do that in a meaningful way. We've said, hey, the customer's already here. Let's just lean into that. So that's how most people deal with it. We also can sell that way as well. But we also sell through what they call Vendor Central. We're a direct vendor. So if you ever shop on Amazon,
Hmm.
right by the buy box, it not only says how it's being fulfilled, so is it shipped by Amazon, is it shipped by
Mm.
some seller, or
Okay.
and who's selling it.
That's
And
right.
in our case, we when you see shipped by Amazon, sold by Amazon, so not shipped by Amazon, sold by XYZ Co. But
Hmm.
shipped by Amazon, sold by Amazon, that's Amazon is the seller of record. They're the ones who are actually selling you the merchandise. Now, the interesting thing is Amazon does have direct relationships with some brands, and a lot of other brands, they don't have a direct relationship. There's a lot of products where selling directly to Amazon is tricky, and it's not only tricky for the sellers and the brand owners, but it's not scalable for Amazon to have a direct relationship with every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there, and make sure that they're operating the system properly, keeping things in stock. So there's a fine line where they want to deal with a certain amount of vendors. They call us what they call us is a strategic distributor. So they'll come to us and say, hey, you're at a certain scale. You've already done this bunch of different brands. Why don't you add more selection? Sometimes it's directed by them, sometimes it's directed by us. But overall, we're trying to give them more opportunity to have a direct relationship with brands when otherwise it's a little tricky. I'll give you one quick example because this is actually where we specialize. So our main focus is kind of industrial products. And you can imagine that
Hmm.
um, cement mixers. I made that up. I don't sell them cement mixers, but I sell them oddball stuff like that. They were never meant to be sold retail. Not really, you
Hmm.
don't really picture that you just go to the local hardware store and just pick one up, right? But Amazon wants to be the everything store. They want to make that stuff available. And so you have, the top cement mixer manufacturer here, and you have Amazon here. They want to be connected, but maybe the cement mixer they're only sold through limited distribution, or they sell direct and they ship it directly to the customer, or they've got certain field agents. They've got their own model of how they've built their business, and then Amazon's got its model and all its requirements. We're the bridge that can be the middleman that can connect those two things. So I can deal with the cement mixer manufacturer at his level. stocking orders, one ship to location, dealing with, not a bunch of weird co-ops and electronic requirements, all this kind of stuff. And then I can deal with Amazon and I speak their language. I can deal with all their complexities of shipping to multiple distribution centers, EDI processing orders, all that kind of stuff. And we're the bridge that can connect the two. And so we are able to connect kind of old world and new world and make a product that shouldn't work for e-commerce, shouldn't work for retail, work in that case. And Amazon is the place where you go to find stuff that you don't know where else to go. And so that's the really the brand in my mind that Amazon kind of subconsciously creates for people. And or that's that's where that opportunity is. And so we try to lean into that and make connections with both manufacturers and Amazon that otherwise would be really tricky to work.
Yeah. And do you guys take the return, by the way? And then we can
No
go on
returns.
to more fun
So
things.
we
Like
pay millions of dollars every year to Amazon, so there's no returns ever.
Okay, yeah. Probably for the best because reverse logistics is a whole thing that,
Yeah. So we just try to keep it simple. We pay the
yeah,
piper.
right,
We pay our
right.
fair share on all that, but
Yeah.
yeah, Amazon doesn't want to deal with it, and we don't want to deal with it. So all the
Nobody wants
better.
to deal with it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly right. That's exactly right.
So it sounds like you guys are basically almost like a wholesaler to Amazon.
Correct. That would be a fair summary. Yes. I mean, of course there's a bunch more complicated relationships just like it would be with any other, manufactured, but yes, I would say we sell wholesale to Amazon. That's the general idea.
Amazon is the biggest one in the room, probably in many rooms. Do they control how you get paid, when you get paid? And does that cause issues with the fact that you're dealing with some of these major companies on the other side? Like,
Um
do those
I mean, they do. We have payment terms with them like anywhere else, but I wouldn't say it's particularly complicated. They buy it. So once it leaves my dock doors, it's theirs. It's their responsibility to end up selling it. So it's not a consignment situation where, if it doesn't sell through, I'm left holding the bag or what have you. I mean, our relationship with them is very straightforward in that manner, where if they decide that they want to order some stuff because we've told them that it's available, once I fulfill that order, the impetus is on them, like any other retailer would, to move it through. Now, of course, like any retailer, they want to make sure they're making us. They try to make a margin. They try to make sure different, things are successful, that we support them to the extent that we can. But by and large, they're fairly low maintenance. Besides sort of an annual review to make sure that, things are pushing in the right direction. When I have talked to people at Amazon, vendor managers and the like, it's relatively high level, maybe focused on some top sellers or some promotions that they're trying to do, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's particularly like combative or involved or anything like that.
So luckily for you, Amazon does the merchandising.
Correct. I mean,
As
what's
sometimes
great is at the end of the day, the number one seller on Amazon, the best people who are at selling at Amazon is Amazon themselves. And
Mhm.
so the
Yeah,
reason that we've really leaned into that is because if you think about it, everybody else on the platform is in a way competing with Amazon. Maybe not directly on those products, but in those categories. And so, yeah, I mean, if you try to sell bottled water on Amazon, a 24 pack of 20-ounce bottles, you're going to have a hard time competing for the stuff they sell themselves for $3.99 free shipping.
yeah,
It's gonna be really, really because you're still gonna have to pay their fees and all that kind of stuff, for
yeah,
shipping,
yeah.
everything else. And so when Amazon decides that they really wanna um, you know, give the customer a great experience by, selling directly in that category, that's what they're choosing to do. And, I wouldn't recommend a third party seller going up and trying to compete with Amazon on their own marketplace because, they're really customer focused that way. And so we've decided that we want to be on that team. We want to be, the supporting them. And so ultimately, a lot of even though we've sold stuff third party on Amazon, so I'm very experienced selling stuff on Amazon, you just using it as a marketplace, having the best seller on Amazon themselves in your corner is it's irreplaceable.
Yeah. Yeah. And how many employees do you guys have, Andrew, right now? Can you tell everybody?
We're somewhere around 60, kind of
Wow.
ebbs and flows a little bit
Yep.
here and there, but we're 50 to 60, I think, something like that.
That's a good
So
number.
half of which are, I would say about a third are in admin, a third are in truly manufacturing, where they're on lines, welding, running, turrets, things like that. When we do manufacturing, like we actually are doing the manufacturing here, like in our
Mhm.
in our Minnesota facility. It's not imported or what have you. And then the other third are kind of pick, packing, and shipping. So we've got a couple different locations. One location is primarily focused on the manufacturing. They've got all the equipment and things like that. And then our other location is primarily focused on the distribution side of the business.
I see.
All right, let's talk about family a little bit.
Okay.
So you grew up, your dad worked in the business. Did you always expect to join? Did they expect you to join? Did you expect to join? Like,
You know,
how did
it's
that go?
it's funny. I didn't necessarily expect to join. I wasn't particularly against it. I just never really considered it. I think I wanted to maybe become a lawyer or something like that. So I did, I ended up going to college for business, and so I thought I might end up there. I not necessarily end up there, but I didn't have immediate plans to do it. Um, some of my family members had plans for me to work there eventually, based on just how they curated things when I was much, much younger. I have a younger sister and a younger brother. My brother ended up working in the business, but I don't think they expected him or my sister to really work in there at any particular point. But for whatever reason, for me, they they saw that as a more likely scenario. I was actually right out of college. I was working at a tech company for not very long, and that's when they launched. Typically, without going too far into the details, our HVAC items historically have been on the kind of commercial side. Maybe they're in your house, but you don't even know they're in your house because they're just
Mhm.
it's part of your utility room with a bunch of other doodads that you don't even recognize. And we started coming out with some kind of more home problem solving products that a homeowner could install or would recognize that they want that product. You would want that kind of that level of awareness or what have you. Much less industrial, more possible to be sold at like a Home Depot or something like that. And right around then, they just said, "Hey, we need someone with kind of an entrepreneurial marketing background, what have you, that can help lead that charge." And my father said, "Oh, I know just the person." And so that's when I got kind of recruited into the family business, and I've been doing that since 2006.
Oh,
20 years.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, yeah, I was, yeah, it's yeah, be 20 years this December. So,
Very nice. And now you've risen, you're now the CEO, the president, or
I
just
think I'm
partner?
technically the VP. Or we're equal owners or what have you. We still have it's still a family business. So the main title goes to my eldest cousin or what have you. He inherited from, I suppose, my father, and then because they're only about 11 years apart. And then yeah, so I'm somewhere in the pecking order, but I guess from a legal standpoint, we all what's nice is we all kind of stay in our same or our different orders or areas of expertise. So I'd say one cousin is much more, call it head of operations from a not from a manufacturing standpoint, more of like admin and finance. So
mhm.
the office, call it the head of the office operations or what have you. Another cousin that's more in sales does a lot of our commercial sales, in particular, and then I do more of the distribution side. So that's the Amazon. I do the licensing. I do the 3PL. So that's kind of I'm in sort of my own building. The other two are at the other building, closer to the actual manufacturing where most of our office staff is. I'm in the other building just 8 miles away. That's more focused on the Amazon distribution and some of our other kind of side quests that we're working on.
Got it. Now, how does it work with the people who don't join the family business? Like, let's say your siblings would have not joined. Would
Well,
was
it's
that
funny.
did you have to buy them
Every
out or
male.
something?
Well, no. So every male in the Tjernlund line for the up until my brother left to start an Amazon consulting business, actually. So he stayed in the air in the realm, but he's a true younger millennial where, he's down in Austin, Texas. He's living the life. He's got a great situation up there, and he's, it's or down there, I should say. Working in the manufacturing family business just wasn't his cup of tea, what have you. But he landed us. But everybody up until him had worked at Tjernlund, all the male ones at Tjernlund and only Tjernlund their entire lives. When my grandfather died, kind of unexpectedly, I think he was in his early 50s or what have you. I mean, and so his wife, my grandmother, had ownership in the business, and she couldn't do anything with it. So my uncle and then her brother ended up buying it out from her, right? Right, because they were already working in the business, and so it made sense for them to be kind of owner operators then. And then from there, I ended up buying my portion or what have you. Some of it was my uncle who had was gifted parts of it, and it's I won't bore you with the details. It was a little bit complicated. I've purchased most of mine, but others have been gifted. So we kind of have a pretty I think it's in our buy sell now, but we had a pretty, you have to work in the business to have ownership of the business. That was something that was either implicitly or explicitly involved, or like stated, either like I said, implicit or explicitly stated from the get go. So we've been able to keep it pretty concentrated. In fact, if we were trying to look forward at future generations and saying, all right, my older cousins or my own kids or what have you, do what would happen in that kind of case? If they wanted to be, I mean, the expectation would be they'd have to be involved. So if someone wanted to leave, one of the existing owners wanted to exit, um, our arrangement is that they basically we have it planned out, but like we would have to buy them out and they would have to sell to us. There isn't
Mm.
really a path to go elsewhere with that. And so I mean, in so many words, someone's spouse or what have you would get a fair payment for it or what have you, but we wouldn't allow a non-management level a person have ownership.
Mm. And you said, Andrew, you work with your siblings, yes? Your brother and your sister?
No, I'm sorry. My brother worked here briefly, just for a couple of years before he
I
went
see.
off his own. My cousins are my main
Cousin,
operating
sorry.
partners. My sister was never involved in the business in any
Okay.
way.
She just decided that wasn't for her.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, again, I don't even think so. I guess I know my brother wouldn't have been interested in being involved in the business at all. Except
Mm.
we were really starting to ramp off on the Amazon angle. So now the business that he grew up with and understood to exist wasn't that same business. There was a totally different opportunity, and so that's the other kind of thing that's sort of interesting as I work with younger and younger people. I mean, I used to be the young person 20 years ago. And now I'm realizing as I walk through my warehouse here, there's like one guy older than me, and then the other 20 people are all younger and significantly younger in many cases. So as we're doing that, what I think is exciting to any aspirational person is we are working on some stuff, and I have a lot of the younger people working on um, our new endeavors. With our licensing, what else can we do? What else can we go down that place for our 3PL activities? As even though it's a relatively straightforward business, I mean, we're not reinventing the wheel. At the same time, there's lots of different ways that we could grow that or what have you. That's in sort of an entrepreneurial form. That's if I mentioned the launch of the licensing being 40 weeks pregnant, this is the 3PL is 2 years old, and so it's I think what we can do is for anybody that wants I always tell people, especially when I'm hiring, I always can find a place for good people. We can't get enough good people. And so I don't really care about head count and salaries and all that kind of stuff and the number of people. If they're all pushing towards a positive direction, I mean, I'd like to grow in 15 different ways. There's all sorts of things, even though we're probably in 5 different not consistent businesses, there's 5 other ones that I'd want to be in if we could be. And so what we're really trying to do is just give these opportunities. When my brother came in, he was able to focus on the Amazon side, and all of a sudden it wasn't the stuffy at that point 70-year-old manufacturing business. It was a brand new growing hundreds of percent year over year Amazon business, and that's just a lot more
Mhm.
compelling to young people. It's a better story to tell, and so I keep trying to make sure that there are those opportunities. I mean, there's work in all of them, but you can't fake being interested in something. And so there are opportunities for the right people in our more established businesses, but the ones that but if that's not what people are interested in, they're a great fit. then we'll find some other opportunities to push them. And I got people working on, our bot, and working with our AI to improve all these things because that's what they want to do. That's what they're interested in. Great. I could certainly use better processes and, get more automation. So if that's what you want to do versus something else that I'd be productive, then we'll just shift stuff around and we'll change our focus a little bit so that you are engaged and stay interested. The last thing I want is someone coming to work and resenting the work that they do every day because it's not compelling to them. There's just too many other opportunities and too much help that we need where I can definitely rotate someone into an area that's at least, plausibly interesting to them.
Do you ever have any of these younger people want to get equity? Like a lot of businesses, especially businesses that are looking to grow and motivate people. It used to be you got a gold watch or something if you were there for 30 years. I think that's kind of
Sure,
over.
sure.
But, over the last few decades, equity for younger people has been a big
We've
top
never really
topic.
gone with we've never really gone as far as equity. I do know that it has become a little bit more interesting to people, especially based on the last soliloquy I just gave around people being aspirational and wanting to be on the ground floor of some of these stuff or some of these projects to um, maybe have part of their incentive tied to it. Um, I think equity would be, or I know equity would be completely off the table just because we're we're a tightly held family business. I think it would just complicate things, and frankly, they're just whatever equity they could have, that it'd be so diluted that a lot of the purpose of equity wouldn't really make sense. I do know some companies that have equity-like structures where, it's not, how they don't actually have the equity, but they get a kind of a profit share. We're still kind of old school that we still have lots of, we're in semi-rural Minnesota where we still come from a manufacturing background. We still have a lot of blue collar employees that in the manufacturing and shipping and receiving. There's only so many that are really even in like a kind of a sales role where they might have control over something like that. Mostly what we're doing is bonuses at the end of the year, much more, 1950s union style. And we're not a union shop, but that kind of like, hey, if the company does well, you get a bigger bonus. If it doesn't do as well, you get a smaller bonus. And that's kind of, that's I think more meeting where most of our employees are at. Most of them, they have a job more than a career. This is something that they do, and that the moment that they're off, I mean, we switched to, as an example, we switched because our productivity, especially in the summertime on Fridays, was so bad in the ship. We could see it in the timing that we switched to 4 days a week. We work from 5:30 to 4 Monday through Thursday for all the production people, what have you. Unfortunately, I
AM,
still have to come in on Fridays.
5:30 AM?
5:30 to 4, 5:30. Yeah. So we've always opened at 5:30 in the morning. I don't tell me why, but that was always the schedule we were on. So 5:30 to 4, Monday through Thursday. It became one of our best recruiting tools. If you got a cabin, if you got whatever else, you're out the door at 4 o'clock on a Friday. I mean, I'm sorry, on a Thursday. You want to head to your cabin. You got other activities. You got a softball league or what have you're into. You can do that. Trust me, it's a grind. I mean, because you're getting up early, you're working hard, you're sweating or what have you potentially. We offer on sometimes when we're really, really busy overtime on Fridays where they get, time and a half and all that good stuff. We don't have that many people take up on it because at the end of the day, once you hit that 40th hour and you squeeze it into that amount, coming in the next day at 5:30 doesn't sound that great, but it's become a great recruiting tool for the right kind of person. Again, those schedule some people, we do have a slightly modified schedule when we can do 5 days more in the shipping and receiving, but I'm getting way too far in the weeds. But the point is that, the mentality around, hey, I do this to put food on the table, pay my rent, whatever it may be. I'm not looking to make a lifestyle out of working at Tjernlund Products. I'm doing it because, they pay a fair wage. It's a relaxed work environment. They're moderately successful, and because it's a family business, everybody's looking for a super long term. They're not trying to make the quarter or what have you. So I'm never going back there pounding the table, asking people to work harder. It just for the right places, for the right people, for the right location. Even like I said, we're far enough away from I make it sound like we're really far away. We're 30 minutes from the airport. We're not that far out. But, in a place like
Which
Minnesota where
city are
there's
you in?
2% unemployment and we're in a relatively, what would I call it? A relatively affluent area. I mean, one of the richest cities in the United States is a city next door. The kind of people that want to work at our place, they want to work because not only do they have these hours, but they can get up at 5:30 because they literally live 2 blocks from our warehouse or 2 blocks from our factory. And so they could walk to work if they wanted to. And so you add in all those different things, and all of a sudden, uh, if you can just cram your work schedule into as small a window as like reasonably possible, you have you have free time that people beg for. I mean, you don't have to worry about work from home and things like that because you're home already for, half the week and can do whatever you want. So that, it's stuff like that that we've evolved with over time. And I think just culturally, we're a little bit different being a manufacturing firm.
Yeah. So it sounds like there's a work-life balance. Which is a
Yeah, for a lot of
struggle
these
for.
people, exactly. Oh, totally, totally. I mean, there's
Yeah.
just again, going back from our manufacturing mentality, because it is a little bit weird for the younger people, especially when they're not on the manufacturing side, they're on the distribution side or some of this other stuff. Mm, You know, they businesses have a reputation where they want, especially when you're young, they kind of want to work you 50, 60 hours to death. They really want to, while you don't have kids or any other responsibilities, they kind of really want to put you into it. The lights are off here at 4 p.m. I'm not kidding. I mean, the guy is ushering people out the door, lock the doors, because previously, when people expected, especially when we were strictly manufacturing, when people worked 40 hours, we wanted to work 40 hours. We didn't want to pay overtime and things like that. So, like, the building is shut down. You need to leave. You're not allowed to stay here past 4 o'clock. And that mentality's, sort of shifted because we don't really have that hard of a cap anymore. But it still is a business where you put in your honest 40, and that's really all we're asking. We're not asking for that much more. The rest of it can wait till, tomorrow for it. We're just looking to, and I think overall, with when we attract certain people, we have people here for a very, very, very long time. And I've got a guy back here who's been here for 50 some years. We're for the right people, the culture that we have, that's very, hey, we're not asking anything extra, but we're just asking to work here while, work hard while you're here, all that kind of stuff. It lands with the right people. And so we end up with I think a really positive, non-confrontational, comfortable work environment for virtually everybody.
Yeah, that's great.
Do you think the business brings you and your cousins closer to each other?
For sure. But not in the way that you think. I mean, again, my cousins are, let's use my oldest cousin as an extreme example. So, or my oldest cousin who's an owner. He's, I think, 16 years older than me, 16, 17. We knew each other growing up. I wouldn't say that, I wouldn't say our families were super close where we would do tons of, holidays together or what have you. It wouldn't be awkward to see each other, but at the same time, strictly from an age standpoint, we were always at completely different life stages. So, I'm in elementary school and he's like getting married. I mean, it's just that, I mean, some of the weddings or some of my first memories are weddings of cousins of mine because he even has an older sister. And those are like literally my first and that's them being married. I mean, they had a kid. I have, cousins once removed that are just, a couple of years younger than me. And so I don't know how, I mean, I would basically, in the most part, I would expect to see them at weddings and funerals if I didn't work with them and see them all the time. And so from that standpoint, and as we've gotten older, now, 41 to 57, we're not that different in stages of life. His daughters are getting married, mine are in middle school, but we still have kids and we have some things, in common for that way. So, I mean, part of it is us just that age discrepancy being from a percentage wise, being lessened. But also, I mean, now we have other common interests or what have you, where, you just can't expect an 8-year-old and a 25-year-old to have common interests, in any meaningful way otherwise.
Yeah. And you said earlier that you thought you were going to become, I just wanted an attorney. Is that what you said? So if this wasn't a thing, then you were going to
I
go into law?
I that was one. I still think I would have an interest in it. I don't know if I have an aptitude for it. I don't know if temperamentally, I'm there, but, yeah, I think what I enjoy doing, and this is why, partly why some of the businesses have evolved that I've been in, within Tjernlund Products, is that I do like trying to take multiple factors or what have you, and trying to figure out a way for them to fit together that can actually work. So, if I were to talk about like the development, it sounds really easy to do, but like the development our 3PL was really um, a combination of our existing distribution business, a combination of extra warehouse capacity, some of the other people, but to build all those processes and to actually make them work. We're kind of a boutique 3PL. We're dealing with certain people. A lot of them were their exclusive seller on Amazon. And then we actually do their fulfillment for all the other places. So we're both a customer. And not only do would make money off of reselling their stuff, we make money off of storing their other stuff. So maybe they can drop a container to us, drop it one place, they have one throat to choke. Not only are we buying stuff off of that container to fulfill things to Amazon, but maybe they have another retailer or two or their website. We're fulfilling for that too. So now we're offering this full infrastructure as a service, but we're also their customer. And, we need to have all these right things align for it to make sense. And I think whether it's that or the way our licensing came about, where there were some other side things that we were working on that made all those things collide and make sense. It's trying to combine all those different things. And I think the law, I guess, it's that same kind of thing. If you're trying to build a case or build an argument around something, you're going to try to take a multi-factor approach and be able to say, okay, why would someone side against me or what have you? And how can I address each one of those things? And if you can weave together the 8 different elements, that makes a very, very compelling case work, because you've overcome these objections and you've shown this path and this, through hole or what have you. That's on a business standpoint, probably even more so. That's what we really try to focus on and just try to say, well, why not us? And sometimes there's a good reason why not us. But if we can overcome a handful of objections, all of a sudden you see that, well, because of A and B and C and D and F all the way to Z, we actually have a whole alphabet that we can actually, work through.
And then, so does that mean when you guys get acquired for $1 billion, you're going to go back to law school?
God, no, 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 no.
No.
I will. Here's the thing, though. It's interesting. To that point, from a family business standpoint, I am sort of, well, I always had planned that I either wanted to sell around my age right now, the business,
Mm.
or I'd work there forever. What I didn't want to, and part of this is based on the family business dynamic being really going back to the age banding, because at some point, my 57-year-old cousin, he has a different time frame of when he would want to work and or something like that, when he would want to call it exit out of the business. However he sells it, maybe he sells it back to one of the family members, whatever. But at some point, he'll probably want outside of the business, and that's coming up very quickly to him. If I wait till he's, let's say, the traditional age of 65, or let's say it's 67 or something like that, because he lingers around for 10 more years, all of a sudden I'm 51. And if we run into that kind of situation, I'm afraid that as opposed to right now, where I feel like if I were to snap my fingers and the business was gone, I'd have enough energy to start a new career, whatever that
Yep.
may be. Maybe it's more business stuff, but I could start fresh and start all over again. I'm afraid that 10 years from now, if it made sense with, their perfect timing, I'm now 51, and now I'm wondering, "Oh, man, at that age, is that really," maybe I feel like I'm too young to retire and really not do anything ever again, but I'm maybe too old to, start fresh and try to learn how to, get involved in solar panels or some random new industry, right? And so that's the part where I don't know if I definitely don't have the energy to do law school even now. It is an interesting thought where now that I've come up to it, like I said, I've literally mentioned it's my birthday right now. It's another annual reminder that, are you gonna make dynamic moves now? Or, and I'm actually could be perfectly fine with this. Are you planning on running this for the rest of your life? And so
Hmm.
for me, it feels like a weird binary choice. I know it's not, but where it's either I need to, you know, get busy on one end or make
Hmm.
my peace with it and then all of a sudden change my framework to a
Hmm.
20, 30-year perspective, and be fine with that. I'm going to be operating this on a daily basis for the foreseeable, for more than the foreseeable future. And so that's where I'm kind of, slowly treading water on and just trying to decide, what that really looks like.
Hmm.
Well,
And your
if
children, you mentioned you have children, right?
Yes, I have a 12-year-old,
Do they,
10-year-old, and 6-year-old.
oh, wow. Okay. So you're busy running the company, trying to help with the children and doing all that. So
Sure,
does,
absolutely.
did they have interest, or would you be interested in them joining the business, or do you want to have them steer clear away from that
No, no,
kind of
no.
thing?
I think it'd be great. If it was truly the right fit, I think it'd be great. I tease them about that they'll have to grow up to be a fan salesman someday, like their father and their father's father and their father's 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 fathers. And of course they just cringe and just couldn't be less enthusiastic about it.
Right.
I am also trying to build in them, especially more like the 12-year-old. I don't feel like I can quite do it yet. Maybe once they're in high school, I really wanna build out and support them in if they have any interest in anything entrepreneurial at all, because I do
Yeah.
think that that's a great path, even if they wanna open up a dance studio or what have you, somewhere down the road or learn those skills. I'd love to support them any way I can there. I think even now, there's just, it's more there just needs to be more life experience to understand that stuff
Yeah.
because there's so much involved, and even people my age or younger people. When I interview some kids for a summer internship that go to college and maybe are a freshman in college right now, I forget how little life experience they have, and just some
Hmm.
areas where you assume that they've run into those situations or have that kind of stuff. I was the same way when I was their age, so I don't
Yeah.
speak poorly of it. It's just a matter of, okay, you know, I got to meet them where they're at on that kind of stuff. So
Hmm.
we'll see, but I don't think it's aspirational of them at this point, or I should say that I'll put it this way. Maybe it's a positive thing that they show absolute disdain for doing the same thing that all their forefathers have done. But that's probably a good
Right.
sign that they're thinking bigger or outside of
Hmm.
that. And if they end up
Hmm.
circling back where it actually does make sense at a later
Hmm.
point when they have a little more understanding of the world, then that's better. I probably should be a little bit concerned if my 6-year-old was desperate to become a fan salesman someday.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it, isn't it? Yep.
By the way, my 5-year-old wants to join Imperial Advisory, which is my
Well, you
company.
see,
He
you have a more glamorous thing though. I'm in sheet metal bending. I can't, I got to get new clothes all the time because I come back dirty and gross and sweaty. Man, I got nothing to catch any of the sweat pouring down my face. I didn't, so they don't want the calluses or what have you. If I had a glamorous business like yours, then then I'd understand. But mine's 4 walls and a roof and just a lot of loud equipment.
Yeah, I hear. Ours is not that loud, but he wants to be he doesn't know it's called like secretary or assistant, but he's like, like I told him once, I need someone to like protect me from all the people who are like calling and someone that people have to get through first. So he says that's what he's going to be.
That's
He's
right.
going to like, he
I like
probably
it. I
thinks of
like
it
it.
as
The bouncer.
having a
He's a
sword
bouncer.
or,
You gotta give him a
guards.
velvet rope to, practice with.
Yeah.
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 But, Andrew, so is buying out your cousin and then you kind of selling into the sunset, maybe your kids join, maybe they don't. Is that an
Could
option?
be possible. I mean, I bought it my father, I'm actually have 2 payments left. It's been over a 7-year period, so, um, I'm not exactly thrilled. So you can imagine that, buying all that stuff out, and I guess I'll just be candid, but, buying all that stuff with after-tax dollars over and over and over again is no fun, and so I'm kind of, like, just moving past that, and the last thing I wanna do is, like, do that all over again. I mean, I could slowly, slowly, slowly accumulate, more and more ownership in the company, but at a personal level, at the same time, then I'd have to take a very long perspective. I'd have to do that. And that could be okay, but it's it's not fun to, it'd be like an athlete signing like Otani, who signs a big deal, but it's all, paid in 10 years from now. And so right now he's counting his pennies, trying to make ends meet while he's living in LA. But I mean I say that a little bit tongue in cheek, but I guess it's a possibility. But overall it'd have to make sense for them. And eventually I think as both of them and myself get older, it starts entering your mind more that maybe you don't wanna do this forever. I do think that, it's a comfortable, it's a healthy business. There's no, major conflict. I don't think, it's particularly, like, stressful. It's not crazy hours. There's not a bunch of contention. I mean, of course, like any small business, you have these hiccups and these distractions and these annoyances and all that kind of stuff that no one wants to deal with. But we're talking about kind of stuff like, the fire alarm going off at 2 a.m. and having to run out and figure out it's stuff like that. It's not crazy stressful, the banks foreclosing on us kind of situations where you want to be done with that as soon as possible. So I think that as much as that's a possibility that as everybody gets older that they want to figured a way to be done. I don't think there's that urgency to just be done because each year they keep doing it is taking another year off their life. Unfortunately, we're not kind of in that kind of situation. Everybody's, healthy and happy and the business is healthy and happy. And so overall, I expect it to actually be a while before everybody, to really just decides to take a serious, serious look at that.
That leaves you in the 50, not ready to
I
retire
know.
situation.
But yeah, exactly. So, I mean, like I said, I'm open to a bunch of possibilities. I mean, at the end of the day, I have to be realistic and say, hey, if the more and more that I personally would be involved with the business or have more ownership because I buy out other people, I can make it more and more my own. Then I can really do what I want. If I want to keep working, which I very well might. I mean, I don't have a master plan of retiring at 45 and sit on a beach. That's not my style. And so the more and more I'm involved, the more and more I can do all sorts of different things. If I want to all of a sudden create a mini real estate empire by buying up a bunch of warehouses and renting them out or what have you within this entity, now I have all the, what's great about having a long healthy business is it gives you so much optionality around all sorts of different things. I mean, basically, I'm not no finance expert, but in simplest terms, we can use the existing balance sheets and cash flows to do all sorts of cool things, from a business standpoint, even if they're completely unrelated. And so I think there are situations where we could do lots of things. And of course, as long as the business can support it, I can always hire my own replacement and dip out at a later point. So, we just got to find the right balance. And it's tricky to have those conversations in only that, there's talk about what you'd want to do when you'd be done and what have you. And I'm sure lots of family businesses, especially, parent to child situations, there's talk about when it happens, but some of those conversations either happen not on your own schedule, there's a death or some major event, a divorce, what have you that happens, or that's for a future conversation and it just lingers on for 7 years when you thought so and so would, take over or be ready for the business or what have you, or want to be done or whatever it is. So, we've got it, we run it, we're not immune to that. We've got to figure out the same kind of thing where, well, would you like what actually is your number? When would you really want to be done? Both either whether it's dollar for the number or age for the number. And
Mhm.
it's fun to fantasize about what your options are, but it's also like when at some point the rubber meets the road and you have to figure out whether you're actually serious about pursuing this or not. And that's where
Mhm.
we've kind of left it. It's some of those things are open for discussion, but they're just sort of like they're still in kind of like dream mode and not in, like pencil and paper. This is our, roadmap mode.
I might have some interest for you. We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Peop- if you if you're looking for people there's people who specialize in figuring this kind of stuff out.
Sure. Sure.
There's
Oh, for sure.
from
And
exit
I would
planners to
say,
family
yeah,
business type. Go ahead.
no, for sure. And I would say that, I know you have a financial background. I don't. We're, we try to put one foot in front of the other. I try to buy things for a dollar, sell them for two. That's the extent of the math I try to do on a daily basis. Yeah, I think what's interesting is there could be lots of creative, interesting tools around a healthy business to make it work for everybody and hit the different elements and get all there. What's nice is that we're family, but we're primarily interact with each other around the business or what have you. So we have, I think, is a healthy like balance there where it's not, it's not father and son where, mom has her own opinion and you have this awkward, conversation around like, okay, we have two different relationships. With my cousins, the other owners, we have one relationship and it's, family member business partners. And so it's a kind of a interesting mix that we've developed over the time. But I think ultimately we can be very what it leads to be ultimately is that everybody's very fair and honest with each other. And so that's where it's at. And fortunately, it's been a successful enough business where that might change if all of a sudden the business was really, really struggling. And that could be, I mean, that could completely, we could see the other side of the coin there. But while it's doing historically well, it's hard to get too upset about, small details here and there about, whatever things we could quibble about.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Success has a way of making everything kind of even itself out and look good, right? And you kind of don't want to,
Well,
you almost don't want to mess with
I know,
that too.
I know that from my get-go when I hadn't bought up my father or what have you and his shares, and I had a very small, small stake. I knew that the only way that I could get to the financial goals that I had was growing the company really, really big. And I could have also done it through somehow obtaining additional ownership of a smaller pie, but the way to get full is just to grow that pie, and that's what we've been able to do. And so, overall, as long as we keep doing that, again, it's you're less concerned about what portion you get when it's a feast or what have you. And I'm not saying we're
Yeah.
quite feasting yet. I'd like it to be a bigger feast, but it's that sort of mentality. So
Yeah.
rather than getting too caught up in trying to slice and dice things. We're really just trying to focus on that, and that's where, again, from a financial standpoint, what we'll need to do at some future point is really try to figure out what that roadmap is, actually get it down, and so that we do have the processes in place, the people in place, the financials in the proper order, what have you. Right now, we're in the field trying to pick as much fruit as possible, some low hanging, some we don't have some systematic where we're trying to overall, clear this field in this amount of time at this point in this kind of processes. We're just taking the opportunities that we can. And so
Mhm.
ultimately, what's great in the short term when we add these new businesses or these new strategies to try to grow the business, it's all or primarily positive and we make more money and all the owners are happy about that. We do make our business more complex. And so from an acquiring partner or what have you, now they've got just another appendage that's a positive appendage, but they don't, if they're focused, if they're a private equity firm focused on a narrow scope or what have you, or have a certain thesis, well, who wants a manufacturing, licensing, distribution, storage, our real estate arm? It's like, oh boy, that's complicated. If we get big enough, all businesses are complicated if they get to a certain size.
Mhm.
And so my hope is that we can get just big enough where a lot of that complication is just, well, any company of a certain size is complicated. If even though if you're just doing pool installation or what have you, you could have, both pool installation plus service plus you're doing like the one of your previous podcasts, tennis courts now too, and it's like, oh wow, we have this complicated mix that started as a simple thing, but ultimately, we have some thesis around, and that's what we're trying to have to massage over time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know. You've listened to the podcast before, but you haven't been on before. I was wondering. I kind of saw a little thing, a little tell from Gershon. Does that mean? Are you ready for a birthday edition of the speed round of the questions that you have, or
Ye-
do you have more?
No, we'll do your edition because I think we're just about at time. So
Yeah.
we'll
So
we'll
I'm
do.
going to do this
You're gonna do the
Andrew
speed
birthday edition.
the
All
birthday
right, I love it,
edition
love
speed
it.
questions.
Be
We
kind to me. It's
traditionally
my
end
birthday.
with a rapid fire questions, and we're still playing with these, but it's your birthday, so we're going to be easy on you,
Thank you, I appreciate
and,
that.
of course. And I think the first rapid fire question I have is for your birthday. It's not even a rapid fire question. How you're celebrating your birthday?
So my 40th was last year. So we did it, and I was born on Derby Day. Spend a buck one
Mm.
on the day I was born. So we had a big Derby party with all sorts of people. That was really the big blowout. And my wife turned 40 this year, and so we just celebrated that about a month ago. So really, I am going to be spending it drive my kids to skating and dance practice. So
Wow.
the celebration is and my son has a birthday. We actually have like 6 family members that all have a birthday in the same week. And so I being an off year, an ugly 41 number, and being on the older side, I kind of, I'm happy to shove myself aside and, give emphasis to my niece and my son and my sister and my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law was the same birthday as me. They can be there. It can be their time to shine.
They can shine. Wow. Well, that's amazing. I want my own time. I don't know about you, Gershon. I need
Maybe
my
not,
birthday time.
give me 9 years and I'll take back the crown, but I'm okay for right now.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, happy birthday again. I don't know if I have rapid fires, only because I wanted to give you a birthday shout out. That was my big rapid fire.
Thank you.
Robert always likes to ask if you like LA or New York more.
Yeah, that was a big one.
Yeah,
LA
if
and New
you have to
York is
pick
always one of my.
which
I don't
end,
know. You're probably gonna say
Neither.
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 Neither,
Right. That's why.
neither.
Yeah, an hour
LA's
got
got
to
nicer
know each
weather.
other.
I have nothing bad to say about LA. I mean, I've only been there a little bit. New York's not my cup of tea. I'm a Chicago guy, so I'd be very pro Chicago, but that's my
Mm,
Midwestern,
mhm,
bias or what
mhm.
have you sneaking through. So that's my cop out answer. I would,
No, it's a good answer. Gershon,
I'll stay in flyover country.
yeah, the reason I couldn't get to my standard ones, and I was thinking about them in my head, in the hour we got to know Gershon, I'm like, if I do LA, New York, pizza or bagel, coffee or tea, I don't know. I have to come up with a whole different ones. I had a feeling for Andrew. I knew his answer would be neither for LA or New
Yes,
York.
exactly. You're right. You're right. I listen to other people. I think it was they're pretty New York.
Yeah, that's
A
right.
couple of
I
our New York.
realized you're.
So
Yes,
yeah,
that's right.
you guys. When you get lost sometime and you end up in Minnesota by me or what have you, we'll take you around to the right
Right.
places. But I'm more ice fishing
Mm,
than probably your typical guest.
yep. Yeah, I think Gershon, we need to go to Minnesota, like Andrew said, so that when we have our
Good
next guest
idea.
from Minnesota, we can have our rapid fire questions be based on something that we know about Minnesota, which is right now nothing for me,
I hear.
or very
Well,
So
little.
we have a client in Minnesota. Where in Minnesota are you located?
So we're just northeast of the Twin Cities. We have a location in White Bear Lake and a location in Hugo. You wouldn't know those cities, but we're we're in the metro area. We're in that ring. We're probably in the kind of outer suburbs, I guess, a little bit. But like I said, we're like 30 minutes from the airport.
We have a client in Eden Prairie.
Yep. So most of the population, I would say, if you imagine a kind of a four quadrants, if the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul were right in the middle. I think most of the populations in kind of the south and southwest. We're in the northeast area, so it's not like I said, we're not remote, but it's the least developed of those. You got a lot of beautiful lakes like Lake Minnetonka down there, and there's so that's where a lot of the professional class is, whether it's lawyers, athletes, business owners, all that kind of stuff. And so there's a lot of businesses, especially around finance, particularly kind of on that side of that side of the cities where ours is just uh, it's not quite as developed. Although we have White Bear Lake as the city I mentioned, would imply, you still drive past cows to get to my house, and I'm, like I said, I'm 30 minutes from the airport.
Got it.
That's right. Well, we'll make a trip out there. I don't know when,
Well,
but
come in the summertime if you have
We
any
should.
sense.
yeah.
So
That's
Uh,
thank you.
that would be
We'd
my
like to
only
do that.
advice.
Yeah.
yeah.
Gershon, do you want to?
Well, we have one final question, then we'll
Oh yeah,
thank
sorry. Oh my
Andrew.
God, yeah.
The final question that we usually ask is, what's one thing that someone looking from the outside would never know about your family?
Ooh, that's a good question. So it's a lot bigger than it looks. Basically, there's all sorts of Tjernlunds. Now it's to and fro. One, there are only a handful of Tjernlunds in the entire world. They're all from like Luleå in Sweden, which is like right up by the Arctic. It's like the last big city in Sweden. It's got like 30,000 people. There's a Facebook data center there, but it's basically in the Arctic Circle. And then there's like a few in Michigan and Pennsylvania, but they're almost all here. Our side is bigger. There's a lot of females that work in the business or what have you, and they have kids. My grandfather had 5 children, and there's a bunch of children within there, so it's actually a lot bigger. Our overall one. The Tjernlund name is relatively small, and in fact, as a funny thing, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office doesn't allow you to trademark last names. That's like a hard rule that's in their thing. Tjernlund is able to be trademarked. And I applied. I initially got rejected, like, you can't do last names. And I basically wrote that, like, listen, you can search Tjernlund on there. There's only fans or what have you. You won't find any people if you just Google it. There's like almost no people. The only people who show up are actually directly involved in the business. That's how few there are with the actual Tjernlund last name. So the family's bigger, the Tjernlund last name is small, and they end up giving us the trademark, even though it's a last name.
Wow.
All right, that is something. That's
That we're yeah, that we're
no
not
one
gonna
would ever
talk
Andrew
guess that.
Tjernlund registered trademark if you're watching from home, what have you.
Wow. So that means you can't use Tjernlund. So don't go around there saying Tjernlund this, Tjernlund that.
Yeah,
Andrew's got to get paid.
you got to fight the temptation. You got to fight the temptation as much as people. Yeah, as much as you may want to. We'll get after you.
So, Andrew, it was great having you. We really appreciate you coming on. I'm going to hit stop in a
A lot of fun.
second,
Thank you.
and then we got to
Thank you, Andrew. Happy birthday again.
yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Happy birthday.